Well, hi folks, first day of July today, so we'll just give you a quick look around, show you what's been growing, how things are progressing. I think the weather's turned for the worse. As you can see, the sky behind me, there's some nasty looking stuff coming in. It's been blowing a gale all day and chucking it down, so we're just nipping up in between the showers and seeing how things have got on with the wind. So I'll just have a look and show you how things are going. So like I said, we've had plenty of rain and it's really brought the peas on. Got tons of pods on now. Not filled up yet, but probably only be about a week. So it's absolutely laden with pea pods, thankfully. These are the Hurst green shaft. Always grow them. Not as tall as they usually are, to be honest. They're only about 2'6" tall. They're usually this high and above. I usually have to put an extra bit in, but it doesn't really matter. The second lot I did sow in a sort of wetter part of the garden. Seem to have done a lot stronger, grown a lot stronger in the last month. I sowed them a month after these and they're almost as good. So, but anyway, at least we've got a decent crop on. The first courgettes, oh joy, oh joy, the most tasteless food ever. But at least we've got some. They've not blown away, as you can see. It's quite windy. So I've got 2 of those, which is more than enough courgettes for any man. These are the shallots. The Elista, which are growing instead of the Zebrun the last couple of years, because the Zebrun seem to have gone downhill. So I've grown these instead. You can see they're starting to bulb up a little bit. They're all multi-sown. So there's anything between, there's the odd single one, and then there's anything from like 2 to 3 and the odd 4 in there. Let's have a look at this, just walk over here. So the onions are starting to bulb up nicely now. These are the giant onions, just the rejects I put in just to see how big they'd get. And these are the onions, the heat treated onions from sets. As you can see, that size, I'm going to start taking them now at that size, because they're more than big enough to eat, as you can see. So we might as well start eating them now that they're ready, instead of just waiting until they all flop over. Get some early, because they won't all stall perfectly, so get them eaten while you can. So that's the first onion harvested in July from an April planting, so that's not too bad. So what have we got in between? We've got a few. These are the third lot of spring onions. I've got 4 lots going, which is a bit crazy, but there you go. This is the garlic I sowed this year, as opposed to the earlier sown stuff I've got. No rust at all, thankfully, this year. It was absolutely decimated by it last year and I got really small bulbs. That's why I did plant some over winter to try and eradicate that, or if they did get it, then it'd be when they were a lot more mature and probably wouldn't have as much effect on them. So that's the main bit, growing pretty well. So these are the carrots in the sandboxes. Not watered these at all, and they looked exceptionally dry over the drought we've had, but still looking all right. The sand was really dry, but when you put your fingers in a few inches, they did feel quite moist. So they're not ready yet, but I'll pull one just out of curiosity, because I'm wondering if they have split due to them being dry and then getting excessively watered. So we'll pull one. It won't be big at all. It's just a bit of a test pull. No, they look perfect, so that's good. No problems there, no splitting or fanging, so I'll settle for that. And they don't half smell sweet, so they look all right for now, thankfully. So over on this other bit, as you can see, everything's growing really well. These are the first lot of lettuce. Some of the cost ones now have gone over, the little gems. Still be able to get a few leaves off that, but the second lot I've planted already, so there's no problem with those at all. And I'll still be able to take these, because these are the multi-green, which I say will just keep growing and growing and they never lose any condition. Rocket's been really good this year. It's extremely spicy, extremely peppery, which is nice. And when it said, oh no, it doesn't go to seed, this variety, well, I knew it's a lot of rubbish, because obviously all rocket goes to seed, but there you go. All I do is just pull the seed, pull the heads off and just keep harvesting it. So yeah, it's been lovely. The rocket got tons of spring onions now. Spring onions are absolutely huge. Like I said, big spring onions. I've got 3 lots. This is the first lot. That's the second lot over there. That's my second lot of lettuce all ready now. Apart from the cost, they need to heart up a bit. and that's my third lot of lettuce, so I'll have a continuing crop of those until probably September, October, because I'm going to sow another batch today, which will probably be planted out in about 3 weeks. That will see us till September time, I would imagine. And this is the garlic I planted last autumn, quite late on, about November, December time. So it's had a bit more growing time, even though it didn't grow anything over winter, apart from the roots. And I have had a little root about, and the bulbs are looking nice already. They're actually bigger than they were last year, so, and there's plenty of time. They're still very green, so there's plenty of time for them to get even bigger. And this is the elephant garlic, which I wasn't intending to grow. I was giving it under the misapprehension of it being something else, but you can see that's a big old thing. So I did chop the flowers off, the flower stalks, because that takes energy out of the bulb. So yeah, so onto my flower bit. This is the bit I made out of the molehill soil. I've had poppies in, and obviously all the leaves have blown off. I think these are cornflowers coming. There's a few bits and pieces, but they've not all flowered yet, so we'll have a look. These are the little dwarf sunflowers, which I'm quite impressed with. Really pretty little things, really sturdy, good thick stalk, and they're only just over a foot tall, so there's no worry about those blowing over. And just on cue, there's a little bumblebee on one of me bigger sunflowers, but these are a lot smaller than they were last year, because obviously they've gone to seed quick, gone to flower, because they've been stressed with it being that short of water and drying out, which I don't mind really, because I'd rather get them a little bit earlier on. And we've got a little mousey in there, look, digging a little hole. Oh dear, you gotta love them. Right, because I was short of water, what I've done, I've knocked this little water catching thing up. I had a spare sheet of this corrugated plastic at home because we put a new roof on something. So we'll put that on, so anything that rains on here will just drain down there and into these water butts. And these were empty, and as you can see, that's almost half full with only a couple of days of decent rain. This one doesn't get as much, so it does collect it a lot better than just, well, that's the equivalent of what's just fallen in. So there's only been like an inch of rain, so an inch of rain will nearly fill one of these half up, so that's good, and it serves another purpose. I'll put all my rubbish under there and it'll stay dry. So these are my second lot of carrots, which I just sort of grew out of curiosity, because I had this big load of sand that I used to grow things in the polytunnel. Just put some rubbish compost in and see how they get on, and no doubt they'll be bigger than the ones that I spent time and energy doing with fancy compost. So I've got plenty of carrots this year. Spuds are doing amazingly well now. They're absolutely dwarfing things out, sheltering stuff off now. We've got the new potatoes at the front and some of the Sarpo Blue Danube at the back. So I finished all the spuds off in the polytunnel, the early ones in pots, so as soon as these start getting a few flowers on, they should be ready to go. Another couple of weeks and I reckon we'll have a decent harvest of new potatoes. And these are the ones in the molehill soil and sand, 50-50 in the pots, looking just as big. And if that grows them as well as in the compost, then like I said when I was doing it, it'd be a real boon, that, because it means I won't need to spend a fortune on compost, because it is getting a little bit expensive. And my rose, I'm really pleased with this year, considering I only planted it last year as a little sort of cutting about 6 inches tall, basically a twig in a pot. This is how it's grown in a year. It's climbed all the way up there, and there's flowers right on the top as well. So it's all coming out, and apparently it's been the best year for roses this year, so they must like the early weather. And I think there's been a lack of bugs flying about that affects them, so yeah, pleased with those. So into the polytunnel, just look at the garlic first. This is the stuff I grew last autumn. As you can see, it's starting to dry off now, going to yellow, starting to yellow, so I'll keep it growing until it just collapses, but it's looking like there's not a lot of life left in it yet. So we'll see how big they are in comparison to the ones I grew outside. But it's something to use this bed up over winter anyway, so it's been a good idea. And the giant onions, although I'm up all the time, I probably won't notice how big they are, so if I show you with my hand, You probably think that's enormous. Well, it probably is actually, but like I said, because I do come up every day or two, I never see a difference in growth from one week to the next. So that's the biggest anyway, which is in the smallest pot. It's only in about 15 litres of compost, and it's a fair old size. And it's got loads of leaves on, loads of healthy looking leaves. So we should get a decent sized one. I'll just feel the weight of it. It's very dry, the compost. Quite dry, so I've not been over watering them. That can be a big problem with onions. Tends to make them go mouldy. Alright, into the little bit, the other bit. That's another onion in there. These are the French beans now, the cobras. I think we've got some French beans on, just starting there. Got loads of flowers on. So I've grown it up the canes, and now it's onto these strings I've got. So it's grown another 3 feet, and all I'm doing is just wrapping it round. So it's going to grow across and virtually horizontally right up to the middle of the polytunnel, and then all the beans on these higher ones will just hang down, making them a lot easier to pick. And like I say, I've only got six plants in, which is more than enough. In fact, we've got a bean, look, the first bean, I'll just pick it. It's only a little tiny one. So the first little French bean, we will get a lot bigger than that. But yeah, looking pretty good, as always. They're an absolute no-brainer, cobras. Absolutely ridiculous cropper. So here's my pond. Needs a bit of duckweed getting rid of, I think. It's started to fill up with the rain we've had because it was getting really low with the evaporation. My little, I've got some little dwarf miniature water lilies there. So if I get some of that duckweed skimmed off, I might be able to see if there's any frogs emerging, because I've put loads of tadpoles in, and I did spot some newts that were in from last year. And like I said, it does look like it's actually clearing up. You probably can't see because of the reflection, but you can see it's clearer now than it was, because you can see my hand in it, and it was just green and cloudy before, but for some reason it's cleared up. So maybe the duckweed's taken the nitrogen out of the water, which helps the algae bloom or what. But and these plants, any plants will help get rid of excess nitrogen, and it's the nitrogen that sort of makes the algae grow, so it could be that. So onto my little wildflower bit. Crocosmia is coming out now. To me, that's always a sign that summer's over when this starts to come out, so I hope not. I hope we've not had our summer in May or June, but you never know. Weather forecast isn't looking too any good at the moment. So yeah, everything's coming along. I think they've all got swamped out by these oxeye daisies, because there are other things in there, but they've got a bit covered up by them, so they still look all right anyway. So it's not a big deal. And finally, the sweet peas have just started to get going. Pick a few of these tonight. Not as many as usual. I lost a few when the drought, but we've got a few nonetheless. These are just the Spencer variety. Got a bit battered in the rain as well, so I better keep picking them, otherwise they'll stop flowering. And then rhubarb, I think I've got about one more picking of that. I did a picking the other day, and then we'll just do one more picking, and then just let it put its energy back into the roots. Gooseberries are looking absolutely huge this year. I don't know whether you can see, don't get anything into perspective, considering how dry it's been as well. Put my hand in there, they're enormous. But they're still absolutely rock hard, so they've got plenty of time to grow and sweeten up. But luckily, I did actually get sawfly on them this year. I spotted it, and I sprayed them with a watering can with just about 10 millilitres of washing up liquid to a 10 litre can. Absolutely drenched the plants. Doesn't do anything any harm. But I looked at these little caterpillars, and they're all wriggling about, then they dropped off, and then there was no more leaves getting eaten. So washing up liquid, drenching the plant, seemed to have sorted them out, because they can just totally decimate a plant overnight. They can eat nearly every leaf. So that was something new I've learnt. Tried that, didn't think it'd work, and it did. So into the last bit, and these are the red cabbages. They're absolutely huge. It's not hearting up yet, but the leaves are touching the top. No sign of any caterpillars on them or anything. There's a few slug holes, and obviously, but they're growing really well, and they seem to like this soil here because it's quite clayey and quite tough, you know, quite hard and moist, which cabbages seem to like. So they're doing all right, and the leeks have really taken off now. It's not long since I planted them really. I just planted them as little tiny feet, oh excuse me, in the holes. So now, because they're growing above the hole, it doesn't matter if the hole fills in now, because it won't get any soil in this bit, and if you get any soil in that bit, that's when it stays in the plant and you can eat it and it's all gritty. So I'll just let them look after themselves now really. And these are the other peas, looking so much stronger than the others. These have just started to get flowers on, and I sowed these exactly a month after the others, and almost, well, they're taller actually because they're a bigger, more robust plant. Got far bigger leaves on, far bigger flowers, so we'll see what sort of size pods we get on. But like I said, this is a really good soil. It's very moist, which peas like, quite clayey, and I put an awful lot of horse muck on this last year, so that could be the reason. So I'll just look at my final bit, my little shrubbery. Still loving these ferns. I'm going to get some more, dig some more up. There's loads round about, and just fill it up with ferns, I think, because everything else is taking years to grow. Like this mahogany here, it doesn't, I don't think it likes it. So you live and learn, and then you just find things you like. So anyway folks, that's about it. First day of July, things are growing really well, can't complain. Weather's a bit foul, dropping to about 8 degrees at the moment at night, which is pretty chilly, but everything's still growing. So that's about it folks, see you later.